gentlemen, and welcome to Listen to Your Mother, Northwest Indiana 2022. I'm Tom Bialik.
And I'm Michelle Piskel.
And we don't fight often, but when we do, it's usually over the microphone. Tom and Michelle, we're the Tomfoolery Fun Club, actually. Right? Tomfoolery is what we consider to be Northwest Indiana's hottest comedy concert series. Our shows feature some of the finest stand-up, musical, magical, and improv comedy available.
Also, each show is unique by having infused music. So we have comedy and music in all of our shows, very unique. We have everything from jazz, rock, fusion, and even blues.
And we'll be acting as your MCs tonight, which will take a good bit of acting, by the way. How you feeling? You a little nervous?
Yes, you know, you always come into these events and there's a lot of strangers in the audience, so just a little bit.
Well, we've been doing this for a while, so to get up on stage, though, is a little nerve-wracking and take a little bit out of you. But we have to admit, hosting a comedy show in comparison to what you're about to see tonight, which is going to be a group of wonderful people basically bearing their souls to a room full of strangers, can be a little nerve-wracking. So what do you say we give all of our participants a big round of support? Thank you. Tonight, or this afternoon rather, you're going to hear some wonderful oratory, various stories about mothers, either about their mothers or the mothers themselves. This is a sort of an encore performance, last night's performance in Whiting. Different show, different stories, different performers. But I guarantee you, during this show, you're going to laugh.
Yes, and also some stories might make you cry.
And others will make you really cry. As a matter of fact, for those of you that still have your mothers with you, I guarantee you're probably going to go home after this show and call your mom. I know I did, this morning I called my mom. Basically apologized for every bad thing that I had ever done, even the stuff she didn't know about.
Well, that must have taken a while.
It did take a while. Actually, part two of the call will be tomorrow morning. I'll finish burying my soul. But anyway, thank you so much for coming out this afternoon. It's going to be wonderful. And without further ado, we'd like to introduce the producer and the director and one of the participants for this afternoon's event, Carrie Bedwell.
Thank you for joining us on this wonderful evening that helps create community and raise funds for charity for the 11th year in Northwest Indiana. Aunt Emig founded Listen to Your Mother with a show at the Barrymore Theater in Madison, Wisconsin on Mother's Day 2010, when she and 11 other writers read their original true stories of motherhood before an audience of 300 people. The show became an instant sensation via creative online women, growing into the grassroots phenomenon spanning 50-plus cities and 250 productions across America. An acclaimed anthology from Patton Books, a charitable giving movement which raised $140,000 for nonprofit causes supporting women and families in need. In 2011, Stephanie Wilson brought the show to Memorial Opera House in Valparaiso and would pass the torch on to Loveland Palm, who I was lucky to have as my producer in the show in 2014. I was smitten with the show from the first moment I was on stage, and when the show was signed as a producer in 2018, I jumped into the role and brought the show here to my hometown of Hobart, Indiana. This year we produced 2 shows, Whiting last night, Hobart today, and the number of stories to be told with an exponentially larger number of lives touched. Stories are powerful, and if you think you have one to tell, don't be shy. Join our group writing page, the 219 Writers Collective. It's also in your program on Facebook, and we will host workshops with the goal of getting you on this stage. So may I have some applause from anybody who's attended the show before? Awesome. How many first-timers? All right. I know we have some LTYM alumni in the audience. Could you guys stand up? Stephanie, Carrie, Don, Heidi, I know quite a few of you are here. Thank you. Lastly, I thank you for being here to support our cast and the St. Jude House. Before we get started this evening, I'd like to take a moment to thank our megaphone sponsors because without them, these shows would not be possible. BP, the City of Whiting, The Times, Great News Life, Sugar Frilled Flowers, AMA Design and Print, Woman to Woman and Mom to Mom magazines, Spare Room Studios, who did the lovely buffet and decorations up here. Let's give her a hand, she's here. The Tom Foolery Show with Tom and Michelle. Painted Willow Designs, a picture, a moment in time photography. Katrina's here tonight, taking pictures. Thank you, Katrina. And Joel Alderson Photography. We appreciate your generation and thank you. At this time, I invite Sue Reed from St. Jude House to tell about their mission and the impact the monies raised this evening will have on the community.
Thank you, Carrie, and welcome everyone, and thank you for your support of St. Jude House and for attending the performance today. I'm Sue Reed. I'm the Executive Director for Healthy Communities of LaPorte County, and I am a volunteer for St. Jude House and serve for the Domestic Violence Shelter, and I serve on the Executive Committee for their Development Board. This mission really speaks to my heart and is so important to me personally and professionally. St. Jude House, for those of you that aren't familiar, is a domestic violence shelter that serves hundreds of women and children each and every year. It was essential for me to come here today and personally thank you, each and every one of you, for the funds that will be raised on behalf of today. These funds are vital to our nonprofit organization, as all of our services are at no cost to our clients. We're more than just a shelter. We provide a lot of different services. So Listen to Your Mother plays an important role in St. Jude's House ability to empower our clients and their children with tools and resources to break the cycle of violence in their lives. But we're more than just a safe shelter that provides basic needs, so much more. St. Jude House provides the essential basic needs like shelter, food, clothing, to those escaping horrific violent environments. But we also work to empower our clients to leave behind a life of domestic abuse. We have a legal advocate that will work to assist with custody and protective services to unpack the trauma. Our child advocate helps with homework, but also works to unpack the trauma via therapeutic play, anger management, and exploratory art projects. And our adult advocate leads sessions about domestic violence, hope, and identifies specific counseling needs. And our case manager helps with housing, employment, education, and transportation. Since 1995, we have served more than 14,500 clients and children and provided more than 10,000 shelter nights per year. Last year, we also took thousands of calls on our 24-hour crisis line, which sounds like a lot, but did you know 20,000 domestic violence calls are received nationally on a daily basis? We need your help to raise funds and build awareness of the organization for this public health emergency. 1 in every 9 seconds, a woman is beaten or assaulted by an intimate partner. And 4 of those women die from that domestic abuse. In fact, the domestic violence homicide rate in Indiana has increased 181% since 2020. You think about it, COVID kept people in their home with abusers, and that really had a major impact. So on behalf of St. Jude House, we thank you Thank you for joining us in this visit mission. Enjoy the show. Thanks for including us. And please come to the shelter for a tour if you've never been. It's amazing. And you can really see the true impact that the staff and volunteers are making on a daily basis. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Thanks, Sue. Thank you so much. And before we get any further into this, how about a big round of applause for Shane Evans and offering up this nice space here at the Art Theater. And now, on with the program. The relationship with our mothers can be hard to define and tough to swallow. In Life Changer, Victoria Patton shares the impact her mother has had on her life and the one she hopes to have with that of her own daughter. Would you please welcome Victoria Patton.
Good afternoon. There isn't an easy way to define the relationship between mothers and their children. A word nor a sentence will ever be able to fully explain all of the emotions that come with those both big and little moments that fill the duration of your lifetime. As I'm sure many of us can agree or relate in some way, our relationships with our parents have shaped us. So in as few words as possible, my objective from this moment moving forward is to help you pull out the positive from your experience with your mom. My mom was tough. That kind of tough that builds you, that stretches you beyond what you thought you could handle. Imagine being 13 years old, dreaming of being the highest paid, most successful fashion designer of the 21st century. And after elucidating this to your number one fan, your mom, she responds with, well, that would be nice, but how about teaching? Your interactions with people are so great. Your father's a teacher, and your grandmother and your great-grandmother. Teachers are leaders, and they change people's lives. That's you. That's my mom. Real, raw, and pragmatic. My mother was born and raised and lived a good chunk of her adult life in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. She met my father while he was vacationing on the island, and after many phone calls, they moved back home to Chicago. My mother taught herself English, boldly faced society's awkward snarls, stares, and comments about her black children, could figure out how to do anything and everything she could think of, like building a fence, pulling up and putting down tile in the bathroom, and putting together all of those shelving things with 1,000 directions. If there's anyone that could do it, it's her. She learned how to braid hair, knew how to make thrifty clothes look brand new, and was never above any job or task. I've seen her clean houses, tutor rich kids in Spanish in mansions, sell organic juices, become paralyzed on one side of her body, have 2 relapses in the hospital for weeks, and then overcome a disease that lies in her body but hasn't taken over. I watched her hear what she can't do, or what she shouldn't do, and be graced to successfully do it anyways. I mentioned before that my mom was tough. Sometimes when you're dealing with tough people, they do things that sting. They make mistakes, and they don't always do everything right. But the reality is that without your experience with them, you could not be who you are right now, or have the potential to be. When I look back at moments where I told my mom something and she didn't agree, or didn't tell me what I wanted to hear at that time, I laugh now, because it was those truthful moments that have made monumental differences in my life. Good parents love you. They support you. They cheer you on, but they also tell you the truth. There are some things that our parents see in us that we've never seen in ourselves. And although it may not always sound good, or feel good for that matter, we need it. It's through my experiences growing up that I have come to the conclusion that parenting isn't just about taking cute photos, baking cookies, and taking you to extracurricular activity practices. All those things are fun and included, but it's more about giving you what you need. In this life, there are so many experiences and situations that you will encounter where you have to be equipped to press through, to prevail in, and ultimately to overcome. But oftentimes, those things are hard. They're difficult. And in those super tough moments, it's easier to just give up. But if you had a mom like mine, or an aunt, or a grandma, a woman in your life that believed in you, present or in a better place, you could probably hear their voice somewhere in your head during those tough times telling you, you can make it. That in spite of this mountain that looks unmovable, that little old you are more than capable of withstanding this. My daughter Camila was the most incredible surprise to me and my husband. In fact, she is something that we needed. She personifies love. That although I didn't get everything right today, or ever, that her affection and admiration and devotion doesn't change. In the little over a year and a half that I've been privileged to mother her, my entire life has changed. It's through her that I truly realize how impactful my decisions and actions are towards the people that I get to encounter. The definition of a life changer is having an effect that is strong enough to change someone's life. My daughter helped me to recognize that our interactions with others can be life-changing. They can encourage others to soar, to break barriers, to be freed from generational cycles that held those before you back. Or they can make things more challenging, and they can perpetuate pain. I decided that I wanted everyone that I come in contact with to have a positive experience with me to the best of my ability. That my example would be encouraging, that they would feel seen and heard and important because you are. Having our daughter ignited something courageous in me to go after my wildest dreams, in spite of any adversity that comes along with that. I think sometimes as parents we get stuck in thinking that our lives should solely be surrounded with them. And although they deserve our time, they also need to see an example of what's possible. Is there more for you to do out there? Don't be afraid. Take an extra leap of faith and go for it. Remember, they need to see it be done. There's so much I could say to my daughter about how much I love her, but all I'll say right now is this. It is my honor to go to every game, recital, and school event to watch you play or perform for 15, 20, or 0 minutes. And no matter what or how old you get, I will love you endlessly, pray for you, and be right there rooting on in support of everything and every dream. Mom, thank you for giving me an extra helping of perseverance, hope, and a foundation to build my own relationship with Jesus Christ. And if I don't do anything else in this lifetime, I hope that I can one day give my daughter the exact same thing. Thank you.
So I have a question. Did you ever become a teacher?
I did.
And I asked that because I was a first grade teacher for a lot of years. So we are on to our next reader. Moms are resilient despite situations they face, and they're known for putting their kids first, no matter what obstacles are placed before them. In The Safest Place, Chris Conrad shares her amazing mom with us. Let's welcome Chris Conrad.
My mom.
She's the youngest of 7 children. She grew up on a farm and she lived at home until she got married at the ripe old age of 19. And my claim to fame is that I was born 9 months to the day after Mom and Dad got married. Their wedding was on October 18th, 1969, and I was born on July 18th, 1970. Mom was 20 when she had me. 20. When I think of how I was at the age of 20, I can't even fathom how I could have possibly raised a child. My sister was born 21 months later, and shortly after that, we moved out of state. My mom had lived in the little town of Florissant, Missouri for her whole entire life, but then the glamour of being married to a manager for JCPenney moved us around the country about every 2 or 3 years. So my mom left behind everything and everyone that she had ever known to raise 2 children while her husband was off at work. And then he would occasionally bring home the stray dog just to make things interesting and throw that all into the mix for her. In the midst of all of our moves, my mom was the steady compass that kept all of us rooted and calm. My dad would typically have to head to the city that he was transferred to and work there on Monday through Friday. And he'd come on the weekends until we had found a new place to live. Now you have to remember, this was before Zillow, so they would have to go and actually visit all these houses and decide where it is that they were going to make their new home at. So they got good at renting fixer-uppers and pulling up the carpet and stripping wallpaper and all those types of things. By the time my sister and I were school age, Mom decided that it was time for her to go to work. So each time that my dad got a transfer with JCPenney, which I said every 2 or 3 years, then my mom would have to find herself a new job. He was guaranteed one, but she had to start all over. Again, this was before all the easy things that we have now. There was no Indeed.com, there was no uploading resumes. It was a matter of scouring the newspaper, making those phone calls, and going to actual in-person interviews. And she would do all this while she was getting my sister and I acclimated to our new school. Everything was new. Her job, our school, the church we went to, the pediatricians we saw, the neighborhood, everything was new. She was the compass. She was the one that kept us all on board. My sister and I grew accustomed to moving because it was all that we had ever known, but it got harder as we got older. The year that I was in 4th grade, we moved in the middle of the school year, and it was an especially difficult transition. I hated being the new kid when all the other kids already knew each other. All I wanted was to be home with my mom, and I can remember crying with her before bed as I would anticipate the next day and being away from her at school. The safest place in the world for me was in her arms, and she would comfort me and then send me off to do hard things, just like any good mom would do. As I made the move into junior high school, I started hanging out with friends who were definitely not the best influence. At the tender age of 12, I was smoking cigarettes and recruiting my little 10-year-old sister to do the same thing. I was skipping religious education classes to hang out at the local video arcade. This dates me, yes, I am over 50 years old. And I was lying through my teeth, left and right, about absolutely everything. So I was grounded for about 8 consecutive weeks, because every time I would near the end of one stretch, I would do something else, and then I would earn another 2 weeks added to my punishment. Like the time that I was grounded from the TV, my dad came home and felt how warm the TV was, so he turned off the fuse box, and then I would sneak back and turn it back on, and just really prove my worth and my trust, right? So the eye-opener for me was when my mom said, Chris, I can forgive you, but it's going to be a long time before I can ever trust you again. Ouch. That hurt, mostly because it was true and well-deserved. High school actually started out with a fairly happy stretch between my mom and me. But by my junior and senior year, I was pretty well obsessed with my friends. They were my world, they were what mattered, and that pesky family at home was just getting in my way. They knew they weren't my top priority, and while that's pretty normal developmentally, I think that's something that always kind of tugged at Mom's heart. How come they weren't more important? Without question, the time that I inflicted the most pain on her was when we returned home from her own mother's funeral. My grandma died unexpectedly of a heart attack 3 days before Christmas in 1988. The funeral was in St. Louis, and we were returning home to Minnesota after 5 days with family. All my mom wanted to do was make some hot chocolate, put Nat King Cole on the record player, and have the four of us sit around opening our Christmas gifts with each other. But I had other plans. I was going out with my friends. I mean, I had just come home from my first semester of college, so again, my top priority was not the people under my roof that I lived with. My mom wanted me to stay, we argued, and then I did my signature move of stomping off to my room and slamming the door behind me. My dad was hot on my heels, demanding that I go upstairs and apologize to my mom. I relented, and as I made my way down the hall toward their room, I could hear my mom crying through the closed door. Actually, crying is too gentle a word. It was more like a sob, a wail, something I'd never heard out of her before. She was sobbing and pleading with God, saying, "Help me, I've lost my mother and my daughter all in the same week." And I stopped in my tracks because I had never heard my mom so full of despair and so heartbroken. And what was worse was that I was the cause of it. So I decided then and there that I never wanted to be the source of her heartbreak. And I think I've made pretty good on that promise because we've been very close ever since. My mom has taught me the importance of mercy and forgiveness. Each time that I would come back to her asking forgiveness for the times that I hurt her, she always responded this way. And this is what I tell my kids, my 17-year-old son and my 19-year-old daughter still today. I may not love what you did, but I always love you. Thanks, Mom, for never giving up on me.
Thank you, Chris. Very heartfelt. By the way, you and I share a birthday of July 19th. You must have been a real handful. Well, you waited until you were 12 to start smoking so you could do that. Mothers and sons are known to have incredible bonds from the moment they meet. They go on secret adventures and find that special place that is theirs alone. Or is it? In A Special Place for Mothers and Sons, Carrie Bedwell discovers just how special her and her son's favorite place just might be. Please welcome back Carrie Bedwell.
Dear John, this isn't your typical Dear John letter historically written to end a relationship, and actually I'm writing to say hello rather than goodbye. You come to mean a great deal to my son and me. However, admittedly, it feels odd writing to a complete stranger, someone who we seemingly know so much about, although we have never met or have the opportunity to do so in this lifetime. My son and I have had numerous conversations about you since we first discovered the placard containing your name and picture on the swinging bench near Lake George as the world began to shut down due to COVID. As we were being told that we couldn't go to work or school or gather with our people, John, you and that bench became an important part of our trusted circle. We spent hours there swinging and talking, mother and son in the fresh spring air, and wondered if you had been a teacher because you looked so kind, or maybe a tradesman with those broad shoulders. And we wondered how you died, so young. Big conversations for a mother and her 6-year-old son. We know much about you, although we've never met. Your name, John Maricas, is imprinted next to the picture of you on the placard at your special place on Lake George. It suggests you had brown hair and glasses, looked to be in your mid-20s, enjoyed fishing, were a tried and true brickie, and as the A.A. Milne quote your family chose for the placard suggests, were braver than you believed, stronger than you seemed, and no matter what, despite time and space, your family will be with you, and you with them always. It's a special quote to our family as well, as it's helped to get us through innumerable tough moments. We are certain you understand. And although we've learned a lot about you, we have often wondered who the woman in the picture with you might be. She looks to be your age, although it's hard to tell as you are both illuminated, cast in shadow from the sun shining brightly with the glare off the lake, as you smile proudly with fish in hand. Girlfriend? Sister? We never agree on her role in your life, just that she's amazingly special to you and you to her. We came to your bench often over the next month and a half to escape the mundane walls of our home where we were told we had to stay, and began to think of it as our bench. It became, well, a little bit territorial. It was the Thursday before Mother's Day 2 years ago. We remember it well, as we had come from delivering bouquets on doorsteps of those we would not be able to celebrate with in person. We ran gleefully from the parking lot across the Lou Cowley Bridge and had just passed the gazebo when we reached our bench. Although on this day, to our surprise, it wasn't empty. There was a woman sitting there. Did she sense our disappointment? Did she know this was our special place for a mother to feel close to her son? Making the best of the situation, we decided to meander further down the walkway to a similar bench, albeit not as remarkable. As we passed the woman sitting on the bench, our bench, my overly friendly 6-year-old asked her if she was having a good day. She said yes and asked him the same, and we continued down to the second bench swing, despite being that our swing, our usual place to make memories, a special place for a mother to feel close to her son. After pushing each other for a bit on this unfamiliar bench, we headed back to our car, and once again, my son stopped to strike a conversation with this unfamiliar woman sitting at our special place. "Are you still having fun?" he asked. "Yes. Did you have fun?" she replied. After recounting to her how we had pushed each other nearly 1,000,000 times and it almost made me sick, my son asked her, "Have you read that?" as he pointed to your placard. What she said next left me speechless. "Yes, I have," as tears welled in her eyes. "That's my little boy." She went on to tell us that your family used to live in the brick house across the lake and how the picture of the two of you fishing had been taken there. Ah, how had we not recognized her? John, from your mother, we learned that you had been a special education teacher. We'd been correct. And that you had 3 sisters who are also teachers. I shared that my husband and I are teachers as well, and my sweet boy told her he was sorry that you had died and that his papa had died too. And without missing a beat, he asked if he could push her on the swing, which we now realize had been her swing all along. Hers and yours, a special place for a mother to feel close to her son. So this Mother's Day, John, we thank your mother for sharing her swing with us, your special place together, and want her to know she's braver than she believes, stronger than she seems, and that no matter what, despite time and space, your family will be with you and you with them always. But you already know this. This is not your typical Dear John letter. It's a hello, not a goodbye. It's a see you soon as we visit often, because your swing is where a mother goes to feel close to her son.
Well, I just want to let you know I can be a crybaby. If you see me wiping my eyes, it's probably because mascara will turn the tears black. Okay, we are ready for our speaker number 4. Speaker Julie Hinchy longed to be the perfect preschool mom and couldn't wait for her eldest child to begin school. But once he did, would she be able to live up to all of the teachers' expectations of parents? In Confessions of a Preschool Mom, Julie makes light of her epic failures as a preschool mom. Welcome, Julie.
When my son started preschool, I was pumped to have a few hours a week, only to have to provide snacks for 1 kid instead of 2. Of course, it was thrilling to think of him getting to socialize and learn that Elemento wasn't 1 letter. But never in a million years did I imagine the activity schedule a class of 3-year-olds and their parents were expected to uphold. The teacher wasted 0 time sending home flyers for fundraisers, field trips, family art projects, and class parties. I was a little like, what did I just sign up for? Most moms, I imagine, empty their kids' backpacks the day they come home from school. Not in the Hingy household. I can be found typically opening it the next morning to prep it for that day. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The process is still getting done. So it's 15 minutes before we need to leave the house on a Monday, and I'm taking the papers from last Friday out of my son's backpack. I discovered a note from his teacher saying that they would be celebrating Griffin's half, yes, half, birthday on Monday, which is, if you've been following along, today. There's an attached worksheet that needs to be filled out with all of his favorite things and a photo of his family. Oh, and we also need to bring a treat. Awesome. And I feel like a failure. I could have accepted defeat, explained my laziness, and suggested we pick another day to celebrate this made-up half-birthday celebration, but nope, I was ready for the challenge. Frantically, I searched for crayons in the countertop organizer, which, like the rest of my life, is unorganized. However, in an effort not to be judged by my son's teacher, I hatched a brilliant plan to use a plethora of colored crayons in an effort to make it appear as though I didn't, a moment ago, ask my son his favorite color, hobby, and desired occupation. The teacher would never know, right? Adding the family photo challenged me a bit since, in fact, printers only work when you're not in a time crunch. After committing a solid 6 minutes to trying to print our recent family photo, the frustration became too much and my quick thinking skills from years of relying on completing tasks at the last minute kicked in. The next thing I know, I've got a picture frame off the wall and I'm decimating a photo from my daughter's newborn session, internally hoping his teacher doesn't know she's already a year and a half old. A quick zoom through Dunkin' Donuts for some munchkins and the half-birthday celebration is a go. Success. My son's first Christmas program was not, however, quite as successful. An order form came home for t-shirts, $20 custom shirts that were optional. While reading the form, I thought, $20 for a shirt he'll wear once for 2 hours tops? Now, my exact memory on deciding not to fill out the form or sending it back to the teacher that day is completely lost, and I have no idea why I didn't. I mean, other than being cheap. But I do recall receiving a message from a mom saying that she had made the kids shirts and thinking, wow, that was so nice of her to do. But wait. On Christmas program night, I get Griffey all snazzied up, gelling his hair, dressing him in a festive shirt. We saunter into the school only to spot a sea of children all wearing the same shirt. Yeah. Quickly, I approach his teacher to locate his shirt, to which she replies, it's in his backpack if you ordered one. No problem. His backpack is still in my car from that morning, waiting to be brought in tonight and emptied in the morning. We skedaddle out to the car, open the backpack, and I don't see it. I turn the bag upside down, shake it empty, hoping it'll miraculously fall out. You guessed it, it didn't. I read the message wrong. They were letting parents know the shirts were ready if you ordered them. Shit. With tear-filled eyes, I unzip my son's coat in front of all his twinning classmates, revealing his Santa riding a dinosaur tee. My heart breaks for him. How do I explain to him why he doesn't match his friends? Then I notice he's unfazed. He has zero clue his shirt is different from his classmates until what I can only assume is some good karma coming back around, the kids start complimenting his shirt. What a relief. As I head to my seat, I make a mental note that optional is always mandatory. And did you know that preschool parties require all the fun? You can't just order a pizza, play some pin the tail on the donkey, and a few rounds of musical chairs nowadays. Nope. You've got to have a theme, and snacks that also tie into that theme. When Dr. Seuss's birthday came around, I signed up for Cat in the Hat cheese sticks. Easy enough, right? You can see where this is going. Arriving at the store, I check out the cheese stick options, and not a single one had any cats on the packaging, let alone the cat. So I head to another store in hopes they have them in stock. I'm sure you're not surprised, but there were no cat cheese sticks there either. I settle on plain old mozzarella and call it a day. Go figure, next party, a more detailed party flyer with examples of themed snacks comes home in his binder, and it hits me. I was supposed to do something to jazz up the cheese sticks. Turns out I was supposed to draw the cat wearing his hat on the packaging. I did nothing. I didn't even take the cheese sticks apart to possibly save the teacher 30 seconds or so as she handed them out. I literally just handed her 2 packs of boring cheese sticks, like a dummy. Another epic preschool mom fail. After 3 years of parenting a preschooler, I've racked up so many failures, I am certain I could fill up this entire show with stories. However, I'll let you know, I've learned from these past times, so when I chose green eggs and ham this year, I nailed it. I mean, the pictures the teachers sent home didn't hurt either. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Get some nice laughs there. It's pretty good. Pretty good. How are we doing so far? Anybody need a break to go call their mom? We'll do that after the show. Sharing our triumphs and troubles with our mothers is a natural part of life. In Hey Ma, Erosionia Gates shares a phone call with her mother and a very unexpected ending. Would you please welcome Erosiona Gates.
Hey, Mom. Nothing, I'm just pulling up to the dollar store. I've been feeling kind of dizzy lately. I'm just overall feeling off. No, I don't think so, but I guess I can pick one up just to be sure. Hey, Mom, what you doing? The twins are so funny. Your grandchildren over here begging me to get them Chick-fil-A, but I'm like, I'm not spending my money on when I have a bun in the oven. I said I have a bun in the oven. Yes, I'm serious, Mom, I'm pregnant. Thank you. Hey, Mom. I think I'm having a miscarriage. Can you come watch the kids for me while I go to the hospital? Well, yeah, I was cramping all day, and yesterday when I went to the hospital, they did an ultrasound to confirm the pregnancy, but they recommended bed rest, that's it. I came straight home and I was laying down in the bed in one position. I was so scared to move. Monte did everything with the kids. No, the cramps never went away, but I was hoping by today I would be good. Yeah, when I woke up, I just knew. Hey, Mom. They confirmed it. We were able to see the sac and blood vessels and everything. I lost the baby. Hey, Mom, I have to schedule this follow-up appointment, so can you keep the twins Wednesday about 2 hours? Thanks. Hey, Mom. So, I still feel pregnant. I took another test and it says positive, so I called the doctor and scheduled another appointment. I don't know, it's just weird to me. Yeah, it's like I still get dizzy every time I'm in the car and smells are really strong. Hey, Mom. I talked to the doctor, so he basically said that after you have a miscarriage, you can have high enough levels of HCG that the pregnancy test can still trigger a positive. So that's what we're leaning more towards. He said they would continue to drop day by day. He eventually recommended a DNC, but I was like, I don't know about that. What do you think? Yes, to make sure there's no fetal tissue left behind, so I just requested a blood test so he can check my HCG levels first. Hey, Mom. So I just got my levels back, and they are pretty high for me to just have a miscarriage last week. And when I called him, he said the same thing. So he told me to come to his office to get an ultrasound, but we didn't see anything. So he started pushing the DSC again, and then he kind of got aggressive. Like he sent his son in to talk to me, and I felt very ambushed. It was way too much pressure. Yes, I was super uncomfortable, so I asked him to schedule another blood test just so I could see the numbers dropping. And then I would consider the DNC option. So that's where we at with it, and I guess I have more testing coming up. Hey, Mom, my levels doubled. They doubled. He called and scheduled an ultrasound that very moment. They wouldn't even let Monte come back. Mom, we saw a baby in a heartbeat. It was twins again. I knew it, Mom, I knew it. I'm still having a baby. Hey, Mom, do not believe this child got me pregnant past my due date. Yeah, he sending me in tonight to be induced. We about to have another baby, another baby. You ready, Grandma? Hey, Ma. Did you have pain meds with us? Should I get the IV meds? I can't do it no more. I know, I changed my mind. I don't want to do it natural no more. Hey, Ma. It's a girl. Yeah, she is so beautiful and healthy and strong. She already latched on and everything. She's asleep now. She got a lot of hair and some long legs. We got another track star. She look just like Monte, though. All right, I'm sending you a picture. Do not post my baby on Facebook. I'm not playing, Ma. Do not post my next baby on Facebook. She don't even got a name yet. Hey, Ma. We named her Yuri Anaya. Yuri Anaya. Yuri means light of God. Yes, we named her twin too. The baby's name is Mercy. Thank you.
I was having flashbacks. Hey, Mom. Sometimes, no matter how hard we try, motherhood doesn't turn out exactly as we expected. No matter how much we hope, how much we try, or how much we love. In my story, Courtney Oliveria discusses her unique motherhood situation. Welcome, Courtney.
My journey to become a mother is not the story most people hear. It's not a story most people want to hear. You won't see my story on the Hallmark Channel. There's no warm and fuzzy feelings here. No happily ever after. My story is more like a Stephen King novel, with a scary clown face and a floating red balloon to mark that danger is up ahead. It's a story you think could only exist in the movies, but it's my story, it's my truth, and it's my struggle, and it's very much real. I went through a year of infertility treatments, procedures, shots, pills, ultrasounds, blood draws, weight gain, mood swings, and scheduled sex. The beauty of modern medicine. My year of infertility treatments ended with a 13-day hospital stay, 2 surgeries, and the death of my dream to get pregnant. But my dream to become a mother only grew stronger, so I chose to adopt through foster care. I thought with everything I had been through, I would pour my love into an abused child, and we would live happily ever after. The fairy tale. Only this is real life, and it's not that easy. My son Noah was the first child placed with us. We took an older child because all I wanted to do was be a mom. My son Noah's crucial developmental years were plagued with abuse. I don't share all of the abuse details, as that's his truth to share. But I will say that it's ugly and it's dark. When he came to us, he had many behaviors associated with this trauma. Lying, stealing, temper tantrums, hated being bathed, lack of empathy, and the inability to attach to anyone or anything. The 6 years that followed his adoption were a roller coaster filled with ups and downs, twists, turns, and getting flipped upside down again. I fought to get him the best therapists, psychiatrists, medications, social services, but as Noah approached adolescence, behaviors became worse. No one talks about what to do if your child is abusing you or your family. There's no resources. There's no special department to come and take you to safety. You seek help, but the professionals blame your parenting, blame you, and make you feel like you're crazy. You start to isolate yourself and you fill with shame and guilt. Because remember, this was your only dream. I did everything I was told, tried everything. If love could heal trauma, then my story would be so different. The more I tried to fight Noah's demons for him, the more he turned those demons onto me. No matter the words I use or how I describe what living in my house was like, you wouldn't get it. Sometimes I can't believe it happened. It feels like a nightmare I just can't wake up from. The last night Noah lived with us, I woke up with a pillow being crushed over my head. If Noah had been stronger, I wouldn't be sharing this story at all. It's been 2 years since Noah lived with us. He was court-ordered into a residential treatment facility. The first year and a half, there was no improvement in his behaviors, and he refused all contact with us. We never missed a court hearing, a team meeting, or a family therapy session. I stayed as active as I could in his treatment. He recently started making progress, and we went to see him in December for the first time in 2 years. Now I know this is the part of my journey where you get the warm and fuzzy feelings. You think, see, it's all gonna work out. The truth is, I went back and forth trying to decide if Noah should ever come back home, if it would ever be safe, if it could truly be different. I recently decided that as a mother, I have to keep trying. So very soon, he will be coming home. I don't know what the future holds or how his return home will be. Noah is forever changed from his trauma. He will need lifelong support, supervision, and therapy. The road will be long and bumpy. But that is what motherhood is, right? It's messy. It's long days and sometimes even longer nights. It's never giving up, even when everything in you tells you to give up. It's prayers, it's courage, and it's unconditional love. I do hope that one day Noah and I can stand side by side to tell our story. But the truth is, life is not a fairy tale. There won't be a happily ever after. There will be just the next day, the next challenge, and for this mom and her son.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Rosiana, and all of our participants so far. Please show them your support. Thank you. As we raise our children, it's interesting what we hold onto once they leave home, because it's so chock full of memories. In letting go, Jay Wakesi realizes that a tiny pink tigress bicycle symbolizes much more than it first appears. Please welcome Jay Wakesi.
Sorry. I'm going to show you this bicycle real quick, okay? And then I'm just going to park it over there because I did teach my kids the way the cool kids park their bike after you remove the kickstand. That's how you do it. And I just want to thank Carrie for letting me speak today. I want to ask everyone in the crowd a real quick question. As you looked at all the presenters, did anyone else sing the song? One of these things is not like the other. I know. So if you're a little intimidated by the presence of the man at the podium, I just want to say to look beyond the beard, which I spent about an hour on before I got up here today. And do not pay attention to the muscles that appear to be going outside of my shirt. Right? Concentrate more on my stature, which is clearly not intimidating, right? And then, of course, just enjoy the story and look at my feminine hair. I'm clearly here to relate to these amazing women. Last year, me and my wife had the pleasure of watching 2 of our oldest children get married. It was quite a whirlwind of a financial third quarter, to say the least. Just kidding. It was also the time me and my wife sold our longtime home and moved to our current home, as if we didn't have enough going on. Lord help us. About a week before our daughter's wedding, I was standing in my garage with her as she was helping me rearrange some boxes. She noticed her original pink Schwinn Tigress hanging on the wall in the garage next to a bunch of extension cords that have gotten a whole lot more use in the last few years. I kind of nervously chuckled that it was hanging around. I mean, it's basically been 19 years since anyone's ridden it. And somehow, it's managed to move from one house to another, even though it's long been officially retired. Long gone were the training wheels, as you can see, that we celebrated removing. And the seat is now different because a dog ate the original. However, there it was, still hanging on the garage wall. And I got to be honest, she wasn't quite sure why I was holding on to it. Maybe one day, if she's a mother, she'll understand the trouble we as parents have kind of letting go. My rebuttal quickly to my daughter, her chuckle was, I know, I just need to keep it a little bit longer. This was an immediate emotional response that I actually fully didn't understand. It was just this gut feeling, and I see a lot of parents in the audience, I know they know what I mean. It wasn't until the very next morning when I was driving to work that its metaphoric relevance hit me. The bicycle represented more to me than I at first understood. More than the first time she rode that bike, it represented all the times I had been blessed to be part of the parental unit. Me and my wife, my ex-wife and her husband. Letting her go, guiding Felicia in a particular direction, only to watch her pedal on her own, ultimately unprotected. It would often leave her with bumps and bruises. And this is the great area where freedom, growth, and success for every child is deservedly found. It's a proving ground for both the parents and the child. Remember her first day of school when you didn't want to get on the bus and you were thinking about all the bullies? Remember prom and you were thinking about all the wolves? If you want to know what a wolf thinks, ask a wolf, right? Remember college and you were thinking, oh my Lord, she's going to start partying. Her wedding day, these are all experiences that were very much like the first time she rode that bike alone. Soon I'd be letting her go again. I guess unconsciously this notion, though not recognized, was always in my heart. The little bike had made several cuts, several times through different stages of personal asset purge. We've hung on to a lot of things that we probably aren't going to make sense to our children on that fateful day that they pour through our belongings. These items are of much more value than we initially paid for them because they help us hold on to memories that we can't let go of. As I sat in my living room that very night, after her wedding, my phone pinged, ding. It was my cousin sending me a photo of me walking my daughter down the aisle. Captured there was the moment I was just about to let her go for the last time, just like the first time I let her go on her bike, the pink bike of which I could not let go. All the old feelings and memories began to surface. But I realized this time, she wasn't going to be taken off on her own. She was going to be riding in tandem with a young man I trusted and respected. The same young man who sat in my kitchen bravely asking me if he could marry my daughter. That's how you do it, fellas. Although they might get a little banged up along the way on their new adventure as husband and wife, time has proven to all of us that this is the route towards prosperity and fulfillment. This time, as they pedal away, it won't be on the little pink Schwinn. It's going to look a little bit more like the first apartment. Their first trip to the grocery store, where she's like, you eat that? The first post-college career, job-oriented search. Their first mortgage payment, which they're about to make, guys, in a month. Their first minivan. Yes, most people make that conversion. It's the beginning of new adventures together. And at first, it seems to me on the surface, and I bet it did you too, that you're going to be excluded. But you know what? Deep down, that's not true. As I look back at that little pink bike that still hangs on the 2x4s that support my garage walls, I realize that each personal victory we supported can be referenced by her to shape their future. So our historical journey is very much a part of Felicia and Alex's future. The pink bike is a sentimental achievement reminder to me, but it's more of a puzzle piece for her. Maybe not from the center, more around the edges. I imagine it's a piece of her framework of the new tapestry that her and her husband are about to create. The bike is near and dear to me because I've refused to let it be diluted by time. I see it as the root of growth. It represents the first time we pushed her out of the nest so that later she could choose to fly. The bike is near and dear to me, and as the future of the little pink tigers, it doesn't take up much space in my garage, but it holds down a huge portion of my heart. It's a section of my heart and a place in my garage that it is welcome to keep forever. However, I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that deep down, what I'm hoping is to receive a phone call from my daughter asking me if I still have the pink tigers, asking me if she thinks it would be perfect for her daughter who will be my granddaughter. The answer, of course, will always be Felicia. That's always been the plan. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jay. That took a lot of courage, right? Coming up as the only man panelist on stage. We're a really intimate crowd here today, right? We're a really intimate crowd. We're hearing a lot of stories, and so I have a confession. I'm saving a red radio flyer wagon, and my son is like 250 pounds, 17 years old. I can't even push him, but this big wagon is taking up all the space in my garage. So I'm feeling you, Jay. So our 8th speaker for today, relationships with parents can be tough, especially that of a stepmother and daughter. In Child of Mine, Mary Lou Cowley recounts how far she and her stepdaughter have truly come. Give a round of applause for Mary Lou.
Child of mine. When I met her, she was 14 and not a child of mine. Unlike her younger sisters and brothers, she was not looking for a bonus adult in her life when I began dating her dad. She was friendly, she was sweet, she was polite, she was very accommodating, but she wasn't a child. She was a teenager. She didn't need any more adults in her life, perhaps had way too many already. And the family activities were not really of interest to her. She was goth, and I was Pepto-Bismol pink with glitter and ruffles. She was rebellious, while I was still worried about disappointing my parents at age 40. I loved to play outdoors, roll down hills, make snowmen and sandcastles. She'd rather sit indoors and draw. She loved to draw. Good gifts for her were sketchbooks and paints and such. But there was another very different side. She was very daring. And I was always a little practical, so while I was still asking her dad, is that safe for her to do that? She was already driving like a bat out of hell. She was in a near-death car crash as a teenager where one of her friends was driving, and somehow it didn't scare her or her mother. It scared her dad, it scared me, his driving to get to the hospital scared me, but she really wasn't fazed. And maybe that was foreshadowing and a blessing in disguise, because she was destined for drama. And she seemed destined to test limits. She went off to college, and we always had good talks about her dream to teach, and we talked about our jobs. She was one of the hardest working teenagers I'd ever met in my life. She relied on no one else. Even when she had roommates or boyfriends, it was always her taking care of everyone else. And let's not talk about boyfriends. She was a rescuer. I only thank God that she did not continue with her criminal justice studies, because I'm sure I would have a very misunderstood serial killer for a son-in-law. Her visits were always good. She introduced me to Criminal Minds, Next Top Model, and Stranger Things. I love Stranger Things. I introduced her to Big Bang Theory. She could watch television for tens of hours. That I couldn't do. I would leave, come back, and she would still be watching and catch me up. We talked about her crush on Shamar Moore. She was not wrong on his beauty. Other than Shamar, we had very different tastes in men. She was a huge fan of carved abs over other qualities. Flash forward some years. Not without events, but for the sake of time, we'll flash forward. She graduated from the University of South Dakota and spent the summer after that staying with us and preparing for her new teaching job in Alaska, the tundra of Alaska. The rescuer in her had found an entire village to rescue. We had our phone calls here and there, and I'm admittedly the worst phone conversationalist ever. While completely chatty in person, something about the phone device leaves me mute. After I hang up, I think of a gazillion things I could have talked about. Maybe I'm just too visual of a person and need to see people's reactions. Note to self, start FaceTiming and test this theory. When we were together, we always did fine. We both loved to ride for work and leisure, and I could always share what I was working on with her. She wrote an amazing children's story about her cat, Midnight. A rather fearless cat, too, now that I think of it. Perhaps she was already passing things on to her children. She continued with her education, getting her master's and becoming a school principal. I was so proud of her. She was perfect for this role. She became a mom, and her daughter at age 2 was as fearless as her mom. She was 2 going on 14, a kid destined to test the limits and her grandparents' parenting skills. She was a bit of a wild child, but bright and artistic, just really tough to hold. Working so many hours, I thought perhaps Natalie hated to say no when they were together, and when she is at her wit's end, I would hear her say while shaking her head, "Oh, child of mine." COVID came, and we missed our summer visit, and then that Christmas, Natalie told us she was going to Tijuana for Christmas to have a weight loss procedure performed. A statement about America's lack of value for teachers that she had to leave the country to afford the surgery because her insurance couldn't cover it. But I understood. Over the years, she tried every diet. Teaching didn't provide a lot of time for exercise. She needed to up the game a little, and the procedure seemed to be the next best option. She had researched the doctor and procedure, and again, being fearless, she got on the plane. January came, and she was back in Alaska. Of course, I asked how it was going. She didn't feel good. Really couldn't keep anything down. Is that how it was supposed to go? One way to lose weight, right? I did some reading. I asked a lot of questions. I started to become much better at this phone call crap because now I was on a mission. Suddenly, I did have things to say and to ask. She didn't get better. She was so far away. She got worse. She couldn't walk. Weak? No, paralyzed. Clinic trip turned into a hospital trip, and hospital trip into a hospital stay. Even she was getting scared. I was way past scared. All this during COVID, so even if we flew across the country, we couldn't see her. Then the diagnosis came, Guillain-Barré syndrome. As it turned out, not totally uncommon after that type of procedure in Tijuana. Regrets and kicking ourselves not being our style, I started on looking on Amazon for an all-terrain wheelchair for her Alaskan home, and she kept striving to do every bit of physical therapy they offered. She had to walk with a harness at first and a walker. Her little daughter's only complaint was that they had to get up early to go to school because it takes Mom so long to walk. By the time she and her daughter came at Christmas, she She was down to a cane and compression socks and still smiling through it all. Her wild child had become a doting 5-year-old wanting to help her mom. Somehow, a near-death medical crisis created a stronger, resilient woman and turned her 5-year-old daughter into a sweet and kind daughter, although still an angelic ball of fire. I told Ariana how proud I was of her for taking such good care of her mother, and she looked at me strangely and said matter-of-factly, "She needs me." Well said. Maybe that's the secret to it all. Maybe parenting relationships are about needs and fulfilling those needs. Maybe sometimes that's what it takes. Puzzle pieces that fit together at the right time and for the right reason. When they had to return to Alaska, as the plane took off, I said aloud, "Safe travels, child of mine. Let's make the next adventure not quite so dangerous. Maybe let's do some writing and drawing?"
My goodness, some of these make you laugh, and others make you cry, and others make you laugh and cry at the same time. It's really fun. Thanks for that. Losing one's mother is one of the most difficult things in life one will endure. In the Jewish faith, the family is to light a yahrzeit candle on the evening before the anniversary of someone has died. Although with the lunar calendar, that can be tricky. In the yahrzeit candle, Amy LaValle goes to great lengths to remember her mother. Please welcome Amy LaValle.
Late in the afternoon on a Wednesday in January, I figured I should do a quick search online and find out when to light the yahrzeit candle for my mom. In the Jewish tradition, the memorial candle is lit in the evening before the date someone died. And because that isn't complicated enough, the dates follow the Jewish calendar, which is lunar, so it's not on the same date every year, and rarely on the date of death as we know it. She died January 21st, 2005 with dementia and after suffering a series of strokes, the last one occurring almost a full week before she died. I got the call that she had suffered a serious stroke while I was covering a cat show at the Porter County Expo Center as a freelance writer for the Post-Tribune. I fled home, actually got the story done before I jammed some clothes in a bag and left for Chicago's north suburbs. I know it's weird to write a story about a cat show at such a time, but I think I needed to do it to clear my head and prepare for what was coming. As it turned out, I had lots of time to do that because I was driving my mom's late 1990s Buick Century she and my dad gave to my husband and I when she could no longer drive. And the engine died on I-94 on the Dan Ryan in the tunnel that goes through the heart of downtown Chicago. Was I in the right-hand lane? Of course not. Panicked, I managed to eke out a cell signal to call my sister-in-law, who was a police officer in the north suburbs at the time. And she put me in contact with folks, maybe with the Illinois Department of Transportation, I don't remember anymore, who towed the car to one of those accident investigation sites, and family members picked me up there. My husband was listening to AM radio and actually heard about it in the traffic report. Outstanding. But I digress. I knew my mom's yahrzeit was looming, so I looked online and found out it was then, right that very moment, as the light slipped from the sky. Tradition, for those of you who are into that, calls for an official yahrzeit candle, which is white, unscented, about the size of a can of tomato paste, and burns for around 24 hours after you light it. They had them at my temple, but it was too late to ride over there and get one. And given the small but mighty population of Jewish people in Porter County, it's about impossible to find one in the grocery store. For any of you who have ever felt like you were the worst son or daughter ever, yeah, this was seriously one of those moments. My mom and I were very close, and even though her health began to decline shortly after my son was born, she was the one I called when I couldn't get him to stop crying and figured I was doing something horribly wrong. Amy, sometimes babies should just cry, she told me in the most soothing voice. And she was the one I called the morning of September 11th, struggling and distraught and afraid. Well, she told me everything would be okay. But back to the Yahrzeit candle. The good news was, my family and I celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah. And for Christmas, I requested candles. My son delivered with the green, pine-scented pillar that was already partially burned through. The second, cranberry in color and scented spruce berries and pine, had never been lit. I pulled the pillar out of the cabinet. I have to digress here for a second again for a few more details. My dad died on November 3rd last year of complications from Parkinson's disease. His death in so many ways reignited my grief for my mom, and the sorrow for both became intertwined in a way that I could not have imagined. But the good news, again, is that my daughter got me a black and white picture of my parents on their wedding day in 1964 for Christmas. I cried mightily when I unwrapped it, and it sits on my desk, my father carrying my mom through a doorway. She is beautiful, and they are both so, so happy. Every time I look at it, I'm flooded with gratitude for the people they were and what that's meant for my family and me. So I had the candle, and I usually put a picture of my mom by the candle. But well, this year, things were different. I had a candle with 2 wicks, and a picture of my parents on the best day ever, and spruce berries and pine or not, I had what I needed. I said the mourner's Kaddish, the Jewish prayer for those who have died. I lit the wicks, stood there for a bit, watching the light flicker on the glass of the photo. I've always been a bit sad when regular Yahrzeit candles burn out. I get used to the glow, and emotionally I feel a sense of warmth. That Christmas candle burned for more than 48 hours. I didn't have the heart to blow it out after 24. It seemed like bad mojo. So we let it burn. I've decided I prefer non-traditional Yahrzeit candles from now on. So if you need me on December 26th, I'll be buying up the half-price Christmas candle. Thank you.
As we grow older, do we really become just like our moms? I'd have to say yes. Is that flattering or a blow to your ego? And I can't believe it's not butter. Melissa Sickinger explores the similarities in mommying between her and her mother, Cheryl. Welcome, Melissa.
Most of us will remember the first time we either thought it or said it. It is often dreaded from a girl's early teenage years and sometimes even before then. For me, it was my junior year of college when the fear became a reality. I was standing in the kitchen of my apartment cleaning and organizing the refrigerator with one of my roommates. I was sniffing a gallon of milk, that was one day past its expiration, determining if it still had a few more days to enjoy before it was on its way to something smells gross in the fridge status. Then, it happened. My roommate was a split second from discarding a valuable item like the rubbish that it was not. I saw the small yellow tub in her hand, which was reaching for the trash can. No! She froze. She stared at me, and our conversation went something like, "What are you yelling for?" "Well, don't throw that away." "But it's empty." "Well, wash it out." "Why?" Because why? They're good for leftovers. As those last few words tumbled out of my mouth, I realized what was common in my household growing up was not the norm. I was becoming my mother. I think I had an out-of-body experience for a moment, or a flashback, or a momentary loss of consciousness, as I had a vision of opening up the refrigerator as a kid. I was overwhelmingly met by what seemed like dozens of yellow, I can't believe it's not butter tubs, Cool Whip containers, and a few miscellaneous cottage cheese receptacles, none of which were actually holding the contents of what they boasted, but leftovers from the week's dinners. So if you actually wanted butter, good luck. You had to guess and check, sometimes to the surprise of a very unpleasant or molded, been there for a while content, until you discovered the container where you could actually believe it was butter. I eventually snapped back to reality, took the container from my roommate, who was still staring at me like a crazy person, and proceeded to wash it up. We never spoke of it again. For me, that was the first time I thought, oh Lord, turning into my mother. It wasn't a few years before those occurrences became more frequent, and my metamorphosis was truly happening. They snuck up on you at random times, different locations, and usually stopping dead in my tracks, and sometimes took my breath away. At the grocery store, choosing produce, in my room, folding laundry, and sometimes I was getting ready to leave the house. The way I squished or smelled my fruits and vegetables, the way I folded my socks, the way I had to change my purse over so that I had every possible item I could possibly need to maneuver myself out of any possible situation. And of course, handy wipes. Once I became a wife and a mother, these moments did not come fewer nor further between, but more like daily. Over the past 10 years or so, I have learned to come to terms with my turning into my motherness. It's fine. I mean, it's good. It's actually pretty awesome. Why did this idea freak me out so much all those years ago with the whole don't throw it away thing in the apartment? I have actually invited the turning into my motherness to happen because, well, I actually kind of want to do some things that she did. Still does. These intentional requests are typically about kitchen or household manners. Hey Mom, what kind of roast do you use? Top sirloin, bottom roast, chuck roast? There's too many options. Hey Mom, do you have that recipe for your Christmas morning breakfast casserole souffle thing? Mom, what do you use to get ink out of a gray sweatshirt? Mom? 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 Oh my goodness, am I as annoying to my mom as my kids are to me? I'm like a 41-year-old woman child. The more I think about it, the more I realize that I'm actually not becoming my mother, but have truly become my mother's daughter. My husband has even recognized this on occasion when I do something out of her character, and he says, Okay, Cheryl. There are so many things I could do, say, and believe because that is how my mom does it. I couldn't possibly list them all. Noteworthy concepts would be rewarding myself with chocolate or snacks for completing household chores. Becoming a complete psychopath the day I am hosting a family party or holiday. Accepting that my stocking will be empty on Christmas morning. And going without a few new things so that my kids can have everything. Honestly, I see more than I think she realizes. I see my mom pour into our family, invest her life in us, and provided us the best care. I see my mom take care of my father, pack his lunch for almost 50 years as he worked swing shift at the mill, and have dinner ready when he got home so we could eat as a family. I see my mom in the stands of every game that I ever played, every competition that I ever danced in, and every dance competition I coached a team. I see my mom at the audience of every recital, concert, college dance company show, and artistic performance I have ever been a part of, including today. I have watched myself try to emulate all of it. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill. She's crying right now, too. I got you, girl. I kind of mom like her. I kind of wife like her. I kind of daughter like her. I kind of sister like her. I kind of aunt like her. And someday, I would like to grandma like her, because damn, she's really good at that. While I may still have moments of panic that I am exhibiting characteristics of my mom, it really has become more of a relief. All of the important stuff about being an adult and taking care of my family, I learned from her. My childhood memories all revolve around my family, and I carry those experiences with me and inspire myself to ensure that my kids have those experiences too. And when I see a refrigerator full of my kids' drawings at my parents' house, it makes me smile. And when I open the refrigerator, I giggle, because when I see that yellow container, I guess I can believe it's not butter.
Thank you, Melissa. Very touching. In Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll writes of becoming a different person than one was the day before. It's true of all of us, and cast member Erica Oñate has taken the message of her favorite book to heart. In Erica in Wonderland, she discusses how the novel was a metaphor of her life and her road to motherhood. Please welcome Erica Oñate.
In Alice in Wonderland, there's no use in going back to yesterday because I was a different person then. Little did I know that my favorite childhood story that was written a century before my arrival on this planet was written as an overview of my life. Every character, every unusual situation, every odd relationship relates to my story. I never thought of myself as someone anyone could look up to. I surely have never viewed myself as an inspiration. I didn't become a mom until late in my life, and I may be one of the only speakers here tonight who, if asked in my younger years, I didn't even want to be a mother at all. Much like Alice, I was independent, free-spirited, and seldom took anyone's advice, especially my mother's, even though she always tried to keep me on the straight and narrow. My falling down the rabbit hole moment was when I found myself a victim of domestic abuse. In the moment, I had no idea it was happening. I had no sense that I was being controlled. emotionally and mentally abused, nor manipulated by the boy who I thought was just loving me unconditionally. I tried to leave the relationship several times, but I was caught in a vicious cycle of abuse. I was stalked, talked down to, gaslighted, made to feel like I would be nothing without him, and he was the best that I would ever have. When I would go to leave, he would apologize, buy gifts, pretend to be Mr. Wonderful until it would start all over again. My mother reminded me daily how much she hated him and how our relationship was tearing apart my family. I then viewed her as the Queen of Hearts, the tyrannical leader of our family. Do as I say or it's off with your head. We never had a kind conversation about her concerns, but even if we did, I probably would have defended my relationship. My mom convinced me to go to family counseling. The day of our first session, she took me to St. Jude House for abused women and children, dropped me off at the door, and said, "You need to go in and I'm going to pick you up later." She drove off. At the time, I hated her for that, and now I cannot thank her enough. That day changed my life. It started a new chapter. I took refuge from the abuse, and I was able to get away from him. At St. Jude's, I was paired with a very young counselor, and she was exactly what I needed. We connected as friends, sisters, and she wasn't motherly. In the 6-month time span that I spent there, they taught me how to recognize the cycle of abuse, stand up for myself, communicate my wants in a relationship, and not let anyone, and I mean anyone, control any aspect of my life. My last day there came to me as a surprise. When I came in for my normal session, my counselor felt I had every tool that I had needed to have a healthy and happy life, and we were just done. I cried. I cried happy and nervous tears because now I was being released to navigate Wonderland on my own. Flash forward 15 years into my story, plot twist, now I'm a wife and a mom. I'm a mom to a beautiful son with anxiety and OCD. I played multiple roles as the White Rabbit and the Mad Hatter, the keeper of time and organization while trying to be a scout mom, a soccer coach, restaurant manager, Tri-Kappa sister, PTO president, small business owner, all while trying to raise a decent human being without going utterly mad. Knowing what I learned from my past, it's important for me to raise my son to be caring, loving, and learn how to respect others' opinions and boundaries. In no way is he ever going to disrespect someone he cares for or feel like control should have more of an emphasis on a relationship over trust. Parents of sons, please teach them that. Parents of daughters, please teach them to recognize that. Another Lewis Carroll quote, "If you don't really know where you're going, then any road will take you there." I will constantly move forward. I will always help others move forward. I wasn't stuck. I was being held back. During that dark time in my life, I would always say, I will never treat my kids the way my mother treats me. Now that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm walking down the path that my mother laid before me. That path is crazy, upside down, full of nutty challenges and kooky characters every day. But I have the power to tackle it with courage, grace, compassion, and a bit of humor. I know my son is watching and learning, and I know that he'll be proud of his mom just as much as I am proud of mine. St. Jude House will always hold a special place in my heart, and even has a bigger piece in the foundation of how I live my life. I never hid the fact that I went there, but I never really boasted about it either. Like I said earlier, I never thought of my story to be inspirational or even helpful until now, this moment. If my story can help one person open up a conversation about being a mom boss, a business owner, special abilities mom, or even about preventing or spotting abuse, then this story is worth telling. Looking back after all of these years and seeing where I am now and where we all are, I think to myself that maybe, just maybe, that I should have listened to my mother. Thank you.
You know, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to do what these fine people have done here this afternoon. And I think I speak for the entire audience when I say you have our admiration and our respect.
Well, we thank all of you for joining us on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, and I'd also like to say thank you, Carrie, for inviting us to be the MCs. This was a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. And now would you please welcome back Carrie Bedwell for a few closing comments. Thank you.
Wow, what a show. Can we give them another round of applause? I'd like to thank the cast for their courage to share their stories, and I hope your hearts were touched by them this evening. Please remain in your seats as the cast exits. We're going to hand out some flowers and take a bow for you. And I think Katrina might want to take a quick cast picture. And then we'd love to talk to you guys out there. If you feel like someone's story really resonated with you, they'll want to hear that. Thank you so much.